Hey guys, Josh here from Sportitude Running, and we're doing another shoe review here on the top 5 stability shoes for 2021. So underneath the camera right in front of me, I've got 5 shoes from the running range which fit into that stability category. Now for those of you at home that aren't quite aware what we're talking about when we're talking all things stability, we're talking about foot types that happen to collapse through the arch area or overpronate. So typically, we'll see a foot that will look something like this. Flat on a flat surface, you'll see the arch is relatively close to the ground. And when this runner transitions through their gait cycle, be it heel striking or even midfoot striking, there'll be a tendency for that foot to ever so slightly favor the medial side. So the foot will roll in over that arch, causing a little bit of rotation through the shins as the foot transitions through the gait cycle to then toe off out. So with stability running shoes, traditionally, if you looked back at the history of stability running shoes over the best part of 30 years, brands have always used some structure device on the instep or the medial side of that shoe to give that arch a little bit of support. Now, over the last 6+ years, we've seen support systems change, which has been a really, really good update in shoe engineering. So all brands have caught on to the fact that they don't need to use really overcomplicated, heavy systems on that medial side. You can still cater for an overpronator by just adjusting how you introduce support into your running shoes. So speaking of that, all 5 shoes underneath me have all got slightly different takes on how they essentially execute support within their engineering. So in today's review, we're going to jump into all 5 of these shoes, talk about why they're in my top 5, and they have to be in the top 5 because they're going to be versatile and they have to be available in widths, and that's a really important one, especially for stability running shoes. You've got to be able to make your shoes essentially accessible to a lot of different foot shapes out there, which these 5 shoes are. So let's get stuck in. Okay guys, in no particular order, let's start off this shoe review. And in my hand, I hold the New Balance Fresh Foam Vongo version 5. So to give you a little bit of history with the Vongo, it has been around obviously now for 5 seasons, this being the 5th. Australia missed out on version 3 and version 4. So New Balance Australia did not decide to bring this shoe south of the equator. It was circulating in the Northern Hemisphere, so North America and in Europe. However, Australia decided just to hold off until version 5 was available. And it was probably the best decision they made because I personally think, and I was lucky enough to have Vongo V1, and this is almost 6.5 years ago. So it was a prototype before it went to market. And I really did not like that shoe. Version 2 was very similar. Version 3 and 4 had some changes. But for New Balance to get it right, they had to go right back to the drawing board, come back to the basics, and really dial into what is actually important for a high mileage stability running shoe. They took some great learnings from 1080 franchise, be it the version 10 and version 11, and then they rolled over some engineering features from that shoe into the Vongo version 5. So you've got the fresh foam cushioning system. The only thing that's really different is a slightly higher stack, 34mm heel, 26mm forefoot for that 8mm variance. On the medial side through here, we have got the injected midsole. So what I'm talking about there is you've got a technology that sits between my finger here and here. Pardon me, I'll get my fingers up there. And that's essentially where the arch support sits within this shoe. So again, as I said in the intro, traditionally brands have used dual density or double density foams on that medial side. Pretty heavy, pretty complicated systems, and more often than not wasn't the most comfortable thing to run in. So what New Balance have done is they've gone back to the drawing board. They've used a really clever and unique way to inject that arch support. So how they've done that is essentially when they pour this midsole mold, they have a small divider which sits between the bonded support system on the medial side and the fresh foam system on the lateral side. And when they pour them into the mold, they're obviously different densities using pellet constructions. And when the shoe temperature gets to a specific number, they remove that mold and the two become one. So then there's no glue that goes into the midsole that actually joins the two systems together. They actually become one system, however, having a different feel, function, and feature on the medial side through here. So again, it's not an intrusive arch support. It's just there. It does what it needs to when you require it. And obviously being a high mileage cushioned fresh foam 10 system underneath the body, you're going to get plenty of plushness as you go through your whole gait cycle. Other thing to note is obviously widths. D and 2E for men's, and you've got a B and D for ladies. So 2 width offerings, which is really, really beneficial. Okay guys, next shoe in the top 5 stability shoes for 2021 is none other than the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 21. So I hold this shoe in my hand through here, and to give you a bit of a breakdown on what this shoe is all about, it's been very consistent from one model to the next for the last 3 years. So we've got a shoe that's rocking a 24mm heel and a 12mm forefoot for a variance of 12mm, both heel to toe drop. And that's been the same now for the last 5 years at least with this shoe. So it is slightly more on that high heel to toe drop in regards to the other shoes we're talking about here, and obviously the other shoes in this category across the industry itself. So again, we don't see too many shoes get up to that 12mm heel to toe mark, but the Adrenaline has, and it's been the same for, yeah, as I said, 6+ years. Okay, this shoe here also makes its way into this top 5 list because it is available in 4 widths, men's and women's, and that just makes our life a lot easier when you're fitting a shoe to someone's foot shape. So men's, you've got a B width, which is narrow, a D, a 2E, and a 4E. In the ladies, you've got a 2A, which is their narrow offering, then you've got a B, a D, and a 2E offering through there. So that's a huge range with regards to widths. It makes life, as I said, so much easier getting it on the right foot shape. The other cool thing to note about this shoe is, I suppose, the way they have used and continue to use their arch support system. Guide rails was rolled out in Adrenaline GTS 19, massive change from 18, and it was almost anarchy in the industry in regards to, wow, Brooks have been a very consistent shoe from one year to the next, and they really did a 180 on how they have rolled out that arch support. While there's a bit of pushback with the Adrenaline 19, what we have seen over the last 2 years is a shoe that has just stayed true, and we keep getting more and more people into it and have been very happy with how it performs. Of course, from one model to the next, there's going to be little changes, but with Brooks, they really don't like to make too much adjustments when they've got something so right. And that has certainly been the case with this shoe. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be the case with the next version as well, which we're testing as we speak, and that's the GTS 22 model. Other than that, guys, this shoe here is always executed quite well, really good upper system, breathes really well. And one thing I love about Brooks is the internal heel collars. They just get it right. Very, very comfortable shoe. Okay, guys, the next shoe in the top 5, I mean, it couldn't be a stability shoe discussion if you didn't throw the Asics Gel Kayano into this conversation. Now, I have in my hand the 28 model. It's only been on the market now for a few months. And like I had just discussed with the Adrenaline from Brooks, this shoe here is a very popular shoe in Australia, in North America, in Europe, so they don't like to make too many adjustments to this shoe. However, 28 has probably had the biggest change from where it was with the 27. And that is probably something that you need to make note. Now, I have done a shoe review on this individually, which there'll be a link in this video below. So if you want to dial into it in more detail, please hit and find that link below, and away you go. Underneath, we have a more flexible offering. So you've got an extra flex screw through the forefoot. So that's 4 on play there from that medial to lateral side. And also they've rolled out a new cushioning system as well. So they've got their Flight Flown Blast cushioning system. Very soft, but very responsive underneath the body as well. The other thing to note is they still have a truss stick system. So you can see here on that medial side, we've got a little plastic or nylon wedge through here, and that sits just underneath the outsole. So it still gives that torsional stability, which is what this shoe has been known for, again, 28 years. So they didn't want to remove that from their engineering feature. They want to keep it nice and structurally sound, which they have. They've just tucked it away under this outsole so you can provide a slightly more consistent roll underneath the body. And that's kind of a trend across this industry. We're seeing brands kind of almost steer away from that rigid midfoot construction to more foreground contact. And again, the Kayano 28 is an example of that. The other thing to note with this shoe, again, it's available in widths. I've harped on it and I will continue to harp on it. So you're going to get a shoe that you can really dial in. D in the men's, 2E and a 4E on offer. In the ladies, we have now a B and a D on offer. And of course, being a Kayano, we've got your rear foot gel technology underneath your heel for your heel strikers to get a bit more compression underneath the body. And as you come through to the forefoot, under your first metatarsal, Asics have used a twist gel. Now, it's not there for cushioning, it's more there for support for your big toe. It just helps that big toe get a little bit of extra leverage as it engages and toes off out of your gait cycle. And it is actually a really important feature of this shoe because they have introduced that extra flex screw through the forefoot. It does provide a little bit more stability for that forefoot to function correctly. Very important. Fourth shoe in our discussions is the Mizuno Wave Inspire 17. Now this shoe here, it's something that I'd like to say, it doesn't have too many bells and whistles, and when you've got a shoe that offers what this shoe does, it doesn't really need to have super foams or really complicated ways to execute arch support. Mizuno have been sort of market leaders, I'll say that with regards to plates, because they've been using nylon plates for 30 years. And what we see now with running shoes, that obviously plates are making their way into tempo shoes, to race shoes, but Mizuno have always known how to execute different density midsoles and split them with a plated construction. So on the medial side through here, they have their fan wave plate technology, which is their arch support. It sits on that medial side. It's not intrusive. There's certainly plenty of softness between where the arch support does its work and where your foot sits on top of that platform. What we also know about the Mizuno Wave Inspire series is it is available in widths, like I said before. So you've got a D in the men's and a 2E on offer. And in the ladies, we have a B and a D as well. Like the Adrenaline, it's on a pretty generous heel to toe drop. We're talking 12 millimeters, 31 heel, and a 19 mil forefoot. So again, on the slightly higher side of things with regards to where the industry sits at this point in time. And as I touched on before, two different cushioning systems, euphoric top layer and a euphoric X bottom layer, or NSE, pardon me, bottom layer through here. So the euphoric cushioning system on top of the Mizuno Wave NSE cushioning system. So slightly softer underneath and a slightly more responsive layering on top, which is, again, a really good and nice way to execute the compression where you need it, but also a little bit of pop as you go through your toe off of your gait cycle. The other thing to note, like I did with the Kayano, we've got full ground contact on offer through here. So you can see rubber is placed strategically in all the hard wearing areas, but also you get a very consistent ride the whole way through the gait cycle. I have to go back a few years now with Mizuno to actually talk about when that Truss 6 system was exposed on offer, and it was probably a little bit too rigid, hence they've dialed it back a little bit, providing a more consistent roll underneath the body. However, keeping that torsional stability exactly where you want it to function and feel correctly underneath your foot when you're transitioning through your whole gait cycle. Okay guys, last but not least, our fifth shoe that's made its way to the top 5 stability running shoes of 2021. I hold in my hand the Asics GT-2000 version 10. Now, I ummed and ahed about which of these 5 shoes, and as I said before, this is no particular order, and this is not by any means the 5th options out of these shoes through here. However, I really did workshop this quite hard. I talked to a lot of podiatrists out there to get some feedback on what they've found to be successful. Spoke to all of our staff downstairs, and obviously the feedback from you, the running community, with regards to what you have and haven't liked this season. Now, this shoe here, I feel has been the best GT update bar none. And I can say that with confidence because I've been fitting shoes for almost 17 years now. And the 2000, or pardon me, the GT series, so it used to be the old 2110s and the 2120s, and we're up now to the GT 2000 franchise. They have always been easy shoes to fit. Now, the reason being is they've been incredibly versatile. They're cushioned for those runners that want something a little bit lighter, but for mileage, but also light enough and snappy enough to offer a little bit of pop through that forefoot as well. And the version 10 is no different. However, I must say it's the most consistent version 10 they have produced underneath the body. Now, the main reason being is they have gone to that full ground contact. Again, big trend with running shoes at the moment is to offer a really consistent feel underneath the body. Tucked away through here, underneath the foot, we have your flight foam propelled technology through the forefoot, so a little bit of pop, and gel cushioning system at the rear of this shoe, in conjunction with a new arch support net technology that Asics are using called Light Trust. Now again, it's just pretty similar to what we've discussed with the other models with regards to a non-intrusive arch support system. It's not your dual density Duomax that sits on this medial side, which again, this is the first version we haven't seen that dynamic Duomax or Duomax on offer. It is a slightly different take on arch support, but it performs incredibly well. In conjunction with how they have executed that cushioning system on the lateral side, so you get the perfect amount of compression, which then aids in that control through mid-stance with that Light Trust device on the medial side. The other thing to note with this shoe specifically is Asics have always been renowned for having slightly different men's and women's offerings with their key running shoes. And sometimes it's a heel to toe drop, sometimes it's how they place the gel cushioning and the actual crash pads underneath the body. And in conjunction with that exact sentence, the GT-2000 version 10 has a slightly different upper construction, 3D printed to cater for women's feet with regards to men's as well. So slightly different requirements and needs for the foot shape and fit and feel with this shoe. So Asics obviously identified that and spent quite a bit of time in executing the right fit and feel with each uppers, which is fantastic. The other thing to note with this shoe, again, as I touched on before, widths. I love it when shoes come in widths, and obviously I've been banging on about that in this review today. But with that in mind, we've got a B, D, 2E for ladies, so 3 widths, and in the men's you've got a D, a 2E, and a 4E. Really important to note that this shoe has always been available in a 2A. And I do hope that Asics potentially do bring it back into 2A for ladies, because that narrow stability offering is slightly being I won't say abused, but it's certainly not catered for in this market as much as it used to be. So the Adrenaline from Brooks does come in a 2A, but we used to have New Balance 860, the Mizuno Wave Inspire, the GT-2000 used to come in a 2A, so we have plenty of options there for those narrow ladies' feet requiring some arch support. So I do hope Asics do bring this back into 2A. It was such a key shoe for our range, and it was certainly a shoe that was well loved across the running community in Australia and especially globally as well. Okay guys, in summary, the top 5 shoes for stability running for 2021, as I said, in no particular order, I went through them all individually just to give you a bit of a snap on what they're all about. If you want to dive into more detail with each and every one of those shoes, underneath this description on this video, you'll see links to all of those shoe reviews. They're in and around 8 minutes, sometimes 12 minutes, but I go into everything from the outsole engineering, the midsole engineering, and the upper, profiling foot types, etc. that could sit inside them. Now, stability running is a really important category for most specialty running stores across the globe. Now, fun fact for you, if we went back 10 years and you looked at stability running sales versus neutral running sales, it was in and around 70-30. 70% of your sales were really targeted towards stability running shoes. However, if you come 10 years now to where we sit today in 2021, it's almost become 50-50, in some ways 55-45, in the sense that we're actually selling more neutral running shoes than what we do in that stability category. Of course, that statistic is going to be different when you talk to some individual specialists out there, but I think it's important to note because in terms of how we run, well, over 10 years, I don't think evolution has adjusted for us as runners. It's just that the engineering from brands that have actually realized that we don't need to really block or control arch support with dual density foams or heavy complicated systems. We can still get runners that overpronate to run and be comfortable running by ever so slightly changing how we or brands execute that arch support. And then you take in consideration the neutral category, then the stable neutral category. There is a lot going on with running shoes in the market, but I think it's really important that brands will continue to innovate, engineer, and be very creative with how they make their stability running shoes. They want them to be comfortable, they want them to be functional, and they want you obviously to be in their brand. Hence the top 5 here: widths, different cushioning systems, versatile with regards to the weight, cushioning, and obviously what you can use, so short runs, long runs, etc. So as I touched on, the Brooks Adrenaline, the Vongo, the GT, the Kayano, and of course the Wave Inspire fit that criteria quite well, and we have had a lot of success fitting them downstairs here at Sportitude. Now, if you've got any questions, queries, or theories with regards to those 5 shoes we've talked about today, please let us know in the comment section below. If you think I've missed one that you really, really like, hey, let us know in the comments down below. I do listen and I love getting your feedback out there, the running community. So yeah, if there's a shoe that I've missed today that you think should make it into the top 5, let us know why below and let's start a conversation. Now, until next time, guys, stay safe, be kind to one another, happy running, and we'll see you out on the road. Take care.